There's about to be a vacancy on the House Oversight Committee. Committee Chair Gerry Connolly, who recently beat out Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for the role with the backing of Nancy Pelosi, has just announced that he will be stepping down, citing his health as the reason. So now the question is, who is going to replace him?
I am the vice ranker on the Oversight Committee, and if given an opportunity to lead, I am ready to go on day one.
And so you are throwing your hat in the ring for that?
If there is an election, he's not resigned his post, but we know that he's not seeking re-election, so it may be next term before that post opens.
As Representative Jasmine Crockett pointed out in that clip, Connolly is still there, right? He said he'd be stepping down soon, but he didn't specify how soon. So now there are questions as to who could possibly fill that position. Of course, there was speculation that AOC could run for it again, but it would have been very difficult for her to have done so. The speculation has been quelled, however, as AOC announced Monday night that she would not be seeking the position. Besides, she seems to have aspirations elsewhere. There's talk that she's thinking of running for Chuck Schumer's Senate seat, and maybe beyond that, could a presidential run be somewhere in her near future, near enough to where she would be laying some of that groundwork now? She's barely at the minimum age required to run for presidency, but maybe she's taking Obama's lead. He served as a U.S. Senator for about 3 years before running for president and winning, and his national profile at that time was not nearly at the level that AOC's is at now. But who knows, that could either help her or harm her. Whether Democrat or Republican, liberal or progressive, people have very strong opinions on AOC one way or the other.
AOC has done nothing meaningful in Congress. She's done it all on social media. And she's one of your leading names in who's going to be president? Do you not get this concept of 80-20? She's an 80-20 loser all day long. Why? She is clearly catering to a minority. She's her own version of MAGA. She's looking for an outraged enclave. She's not about the majority. She's not about consensus. She's not about solutions. She wants government to give you everything. She's a socialist in a capitalist society. What are you thinking?
I absolutely was wrong. It's so hard to come out of the cult. And 5 years ago, I tried to come out of it, and guess what happened? AOC canceled me. She shamed me, and I remember crying so hard, the blood vessels underneath my eyes broke.
I just think with the Congresswoman, if you scratch the surface, you get more surface. I don't think she has the intellectual firepower to run a campaign to be president, but I hope she does.
However, as I've said before, she is pulling in record crowds in red states and red districts while on the Fight the Oligarchy tour with Bernie Sanders, and she's not watering down her progressive message, at least not that I've seen, in her effort to appeal to more conservative voters and audiences. Granted, a speech to tens of thousands of people is going to sound a little bit different from a speech given in a more intimate town hall setting, for example. Rallies are naturally going to have more watered down and easily accessible messaging. But the values and the ideas remain the same from venue to venue. The people at those rallies are attending because they want to hear Bernie and her speak about the things that they have been promoting on record and on camera all along. I'd be very surprised if I heard of any voter, whether red or blue, in this country who didn't know at least a little bit what AOC was about before going to hear her speak. But now we have Jasmine Crockett, a Democratic representative from Texas, expressing her interest in running. So here's more of what she had to say on CNN.
Why do you think that you would be the best Democrat to take that position?
Because I think
which is essentially to fight the president and his agenda.
Exactly. It is. Listen, oversight has so much latitude. But beyond that, we are allowed to conduct investigations. We are allowed to send out subpoenas and get documents. And here's the deal. My legal experience, I think, helps me be able to kind of guide through that part. But one thing we've always done really well as Democrats is get down and do the work. But we've got to communicate what it is that we were able to get in that work and translate it. And so I think that I can not only do the work, but make sure that people understand this is why we're having these problems at the FDA. This is why we're having these problems at the VA. This is why we have planes that are falling out of the sky. It is to do the investigation, find out about these firings and how they are impacting us. The information that this administration wants to hide from the American people, I want to make sure I can shine a light on it.
She's addressing something in that clip that Democrats really struggle with, and that's doing things and then letting the American people know that they're doing things in no uncertain terms in a way that actually translates to votes at the polls. One of the big criticisms of the Democratic Party is that they know how to speak intelligently, but that doesn't always mean that they know how to govern effectively. But the truth is that they do a whole lot more than they often get credit for, and even on the things they aren't able to get done, they need to be more transparent and more loud about what they're attempting to get done and who maybe is responsible for blocking their efforts. Just an example, here are some clips from an interview that Vice President Kamala Harris did with MSNBC's Stephanie Ruhle regarding the Democrats' perceived weakness on immigration. This was from September of last year, so it was while Kamala Harris was running for the presidency. So first, let's listen to the way that Ruhle framed her question.
On Friday, you are going to the border. Immigration is complicated. One of the issues is an economic one. And no one is eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio, and I'm glad not to be talking about that. But there are people there that are stressed, that feel that they're at capacity. Communities around the country that have legal immigration, many have said, we're at capacity. And many feel like the government has said to them, well, adapt, sit down, be quiet. This is how it is. What would a Harris administration do for those communities who've taken in many, many legal immigrants but are at capacity?
She's talking about messaging here. Yes, I know she's obviously talking about policy, but overall, she's pointing out that the Democrats tend to, on one hand, concede that illegal immigration is a problem, while on the other hand, tell Americans that these are our people now and this is the way it's going to be. I don't want this whole video to be about illegal immigration. I don't want to get derailed, but the responses that we get from Democrats on certain issues don't do a whole lot to allay the fears and concerns that many Americans have surrounding those issues. Also, they don't do a good job of showing the American people the things that they are doing successfully to combat certain things. And to that point, here is Kamala Harris's response.
Well, first of all, we do have a broken immigration system, and it needs to be fixed. And if we take a step back, months ago, some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress came together with others, proposed a border security bill that would have put 1,500 new border agents on the border to help those hardworking border agents who are there right now working around the clock, would have put more money into stemming the flow of fentanyl, which is killing Americans around our country and devastating communities, would have put more resources into our ability to prosecute transnational criminal organizations, which in my career I've prosecuted. Donald Trump got word of the bill, realized it was going to fix a problem he wanted to run on, and told them to kill the bill, don't put it up for a vote. He killed a bill that would have actually been a solution because he wants to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
After that, she just said that if she's elected president, she would obviously bring back that bill, and that the country needs a comprehensive plan to address illegal immigration, which isn't, in my opinion, saying anything that isn't obvious. So while it was good of her to point out that Trump is at least partially responsible for Democrats' lack of action regarding illegal immigration, I feel like the point could have been driven home in more forceful terms. The press could have covered that point better. There should have been no question in people's minds who was responsible for killing that bill, but unfortunately, I feel like that point largely got overlooked. And I know it's hard to keep up with all of the drama when we're inundated between our politicians and media personalities with constant talking points and things that we're supposed to remember and keep track of and be enraged over. It's way more than our brains were ever meant to comprehend, let alone hold in our memories forever. But that's why Congress needs to be more direct, more focused, and more goal-oriented in their communications to the people. And it seems that Jasmine Crockett is at least very much aware of that. Also, I don't want to overlook the drama surrounding the last election for this position. AOC was seen to be a forerunner for the seat until Nancy Pelosi rallied behind Gerry Connolly, a much older, much less progressive Democrat who had cancer during the race. As a result, Connolly won the position, and it's debated that had Pelosi not done what she does best, a progressive voice would not have been sidelined yet again. Of course, Pelosi is only as powerful as the people who give her power allow her to be. Why was her shilling for Connolly such a power move that it could have potentially derailed AOC's chances? Pelosi isn't the only Democrat in Congress who doesn't want to see progressives in positions of power. The party establishment has made it very clear how they feel, even if it means that they lose elections and create instability by electing people who predictably have to step down from their positions because of ill health or age. And in a related story, 83-year-old House Democrat James Clyburn recently equated giving up his congressional seat to giving up his entire life. Again, it's hard to be entirely mad at these politicians for insisting on taking up space in Congress when the voters keep voting them in. What is wrong with us? Why do people keep voting for these people? Either way, it all feels a little narcissistic on their parts. This isn't about you, James Clyburn. Figure out the meaning of your life on your own time. That is not my problem, all right? That's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks.